Hello, Year 9, and welcome to your first recorded English lesson of the week. This week we are looking at Act 1, Scene 2, which can be found on page 8 of your Julius Caesar anthology. For this lesson, please can you have your Julius Caesar anthology, either the paper copy, or if you've got a PDF Word document version of it, that's also fine. But please have that ready at page 8. And you'll need a pen and a highlighter if you like using those as well. I would also like you to have a piece of lined paper or your English book by your side so that you are ready to start the lesson. So, can we start the lesson today with a quick quiz on Act 1, Scene 1? So recapping the work you did before lockdown. This can be found on page 8 of your Julius Caesar anthology. I'm going to give you 5 minutes. 5 minutes. Please can you answer these 5 questions on a piece of lined paper or in your English book. So question number 1. Who has Caesar defeated at the start of the play? Who has Caesar defeated at the start of the play? You can look back in your booklet, in your English book. We're on page 6 if you need to look back in your anthology. Question number 2. What are the commoners doing in Act 1, Scene 1? What are the commoners doing in Act 1, Scene 1? Question number 3. What does Morellus think of the commoners? What does Morellus think of the commoners? Think about whether he's happy with what the commoners are doing. Question number 4. What is Flavius's opinion on Caesar? What is Flavius's opinion on Caesar? This is towards the end of the scene. So we're looking from lines 47 onwards. If you're looking at a copy of the text, so lines 47 onwards, what is Flavius's opinion on Caesar? Question number 5. Flavius says Caesar would soar above the view of men. Flavius says Caesar would soar above the view of men. What does this convey? This quotation can be found on line 54 in your booklet, in your Julius Caesar anthology. Think about what it suggests. What does it tell us about Caesar's character? And when you are ready, please can you switch to your purple pen, ready to tick or add to your answers. So, question number 1. Who has Caesar defeated at the start of the play? Caesar has defeated Pompey. So General Pompey. There was a triumvirate in Rome at this time. In ancient Rome, there was a triumvirate. There were 3 leaders. By this point, by Caesar's time, they were down to 2 key ones, Caesar and Pompey, and they were battling out for who could be the main leader. Caesar defeats Pompey's army, kills Pompey, and that means that he is now the most important member of the Senate in the Republic of Rome. Remember, Rome is not ruled by a king at this point or an emperor. It's ruled by a senate, a group of people who have been chosen to rule over the city and the empire. Is therefore not ruled as such by an emperor, but a group of people. However, during the play, we see this senate start to kind of suffer, and Caesar begins to become more powerful. And this worries lots of people who enjoy the fact that Rome does not have a monarch, an emperor. And this is why he is assassinated. So, what are the commoners doing in Act 1, Scene 1? In Act 1, Scene 1, the commoners are celebrating. And they're celebrating the defeat of Pompey. They're celebrating Caesar's victory. They're hanging garlands and things around Caesar's statue and celebrating the fact that Pompey is dead. And this actually is what Morellus is annoyed about. He thinks the commoners are fickle. This word fickle meaning they change their opinion all the time. He thinks they change their opinion too easily. He says of them, "Oh, you hard hearts, you cruel men of Rome." He says that you used to love Pompey, you used to celebrate him. Now look how you've turned so quickly. And Flavius thinks that Caesar is at fault here. He thinks Caesar is arrogant. You might have used this term before. He is hubristic. He is too hungry for power, and he's too arrogant in his own belief that he should be the ruler. And Flavius uses this idea here, this metaphor. It's a metaphor. Caesar literally can't fly. It's a metaphor saying that he thinks he's above everyone else. He thinks he's better than everyone else. And that's why he's seen to soar above the view of men. Your average man has nothing on Caesar. So I'll give you a second to copy that down, tick or add to your answers, and then when you're ready, turn to page 8 of your booklet. So, we are going to look at Act 1, Scene 2 today. Now, this is the scene where we first meet Caesar in this play. We also meet our other key characters of Mark Antony, Cassius, and Brutus. And I'll tell you a bit more about them as we go through. Hopefully, you've done your remote learning from last week, which went through the key characters. If you haven't done this, please can you do that now? So that we know that you understand the key characters. So let's start with the bit of a summary at the top. So, while Caesar asked that his friend Antony bless his wife during the races, a soothsayer, I'm writing, you're writing, if you've got your booklet, you should be writing with me. A soothsayer prophesies that the Ides of March will bring him disaster. Cassius and Brutus discuss near infinite power of Caesar and fear he wishes to become a king. Whilst they refuse to believe that Caesar is a god, Caesar re-enters and confides in Antony that he is suspicious of Cassius. So some key ideas here. A soothsayer is someone who gives prophecies. If you think back to last year and Shakespeare's witches in Macbeth, it's very similar. A soothsayer tells the future. And he warns Caesar, beware the Ides of March. This is just a date, the 15th of March. So he tells them this is the date. He says something bad is going to happen on that date. So you should be wary, you should be on edge. We also start to see some conflict. Caesar is suspicious of Cassius, and we're going to look at that as we read on. Cassius and Brutus are also suspicious of Caesar. They think he's trying to become a king, which doesn't sit right with them because they want to protect the Roman Republic. Okay, let's have a read. I'm going to annotate as we go through. I'll do some explaining as we go through, and we're picking out key moments. So, Act 1, Scene 1, a public place. Flourish. Enter Caesar, Antony, Calpurnia, Brutus, a great crowd, following among them a soothsayer. Now, Calpurnia is Caesar's wife. So he's with his wife, Calpurnia. Okay. Calpurnia, here, my lord. Stand you directly in Antonius' way, when he doth run his course. Antonius, Caesar, my lord. So look at how already Antony addresses him. This is a sign of respect. Forget not in your speed, Antonius, to touch Calpurnia, for our elders say the baron touched in his holy chase, shake off the sterile curse. Now this just means here, this moment, I'll highlight it for you. This means that Caesar and his wife Calpurnia, they can't have children. And he's trying to find a way to combat that. At the moment, Caesar has no heir. He's got no son to take over after him, to take over his belongings, his title, etc. Again, some similarities to Macbeth and Lady Macbeth there, but they can't have children. And he's trying to get her. There's a superstition. Romans are very superstitious. There's a superstition that if in this Lupercal race, they're celebrating the harvest Lupercal, if in this race Calpurnia is touched by a winner, then potentially she'll be able to have children. And Antony says, I shall remember when Caesar says, do this, it is performed. He's basically saying, whatever Caesar says, I will do this. He obeys Caesar in everything. And this presents Caesar as powerful. If anyone is happy to just follow his orders without thinking, potentially we can have quite a troubling situation here. Set on and leave no ceremony out. Flourish. Caesar. Who is it in the press that calls on me? I hear a tongue shriller than all music. Cry, Caesar, speak. Caesar is turned to hear. Beware the Ides of March. So we have our warning. What man is that? A soothsayer bids you beware the Ides of March. He is a dreamer. Let us leave him pass. Now Caesar does not listen. Caesar does not listen. and he ignores the warning, which potentially, again, foreshadows later events. If he's ignoring warnings, ignoring dreams, then it's a bit funny that here he is being really superstitious here, yet as soon as a soothsayer, another superstitious person, gives him a warning, a personal warning, a bad omen, he ignores it. So he's happy to believe in superstitious things for his own gain, but as soon as it goes against him, he is not going to listen. And this foreshadows how he also ignores his wife's dreams later. Okay, excellent, all except Brutus and Cassius. Cassius, will you go see the order of the course? Brutus, I am not gamesome. I do lack some part of that quick spirit that is Antony. Let me not hinder, Cassius, your desires. I'll leave you. Cassius, I have heard. Where many of the best respect in Rome, except immortal Caesar, speaking of Brutus, and groaning underneath this age's yoke, have wished that noble Brutus had his eyes. Cassius here is telling Brutus that he is very respected. He is flattering him, praising him. And we've got this pre-modification of noble Brutus to show how honourable he is. But it's a bit unnecessary. We know that Brutus at this point is a good character. Cassius is his friend. Of course he thinks he's nice, otherwise he wouldn't be his friend. But he overdoes it here and flatters him as a way of persuading him to do something. Let's see what Cassius wants. Into what dangers would you lead me, Cassius, that you would have me seek into myself for that which is not me? Therefore, good Brutus, be prepared to hear. And since you know you cannot see yourself so well as by reflection, I, your glass, will modestly discover to yourself that of you yourself which you yet know of. So Cassius here is telling his friend Brutus that he's too modest. When you're modest, it means you can be quite shy, you don't like to boast about yourself. And Cassius is saying, look, I'm gonna be your mirror here. I'm gonna help you to understand. Flourish and shout. So this is happening off stage, this is a stage directions. What means this shouting? I do fear the people choose Caesar as their king. So clearly he fears it, he doesn't want it to happen. I do fear it. Then I must think you would not have it so. I would not, Cassius, yet I love him well. So here we see Caesar's and Brutus's relationship. He respects Caesar. He thinks he's his friend, but that doesn't necessarily mean he wants him as his king. What is that you would impart to me? For let the gods so speed me as I love, the name of honour, more than I fear death. So here we see that Brutus would do anything for honour. That is the most important thing to him, honour. And that would be something that both an Elizabethan audience, when Shakespeare's writing this play, and an ancient Rome context as well, this is something that is valued by all males of both societies, in both these very patriarchal societies. Honour is really important, not going back on your word, not breaking your promises. I know that virtue to be in you, Brutus, as well as I do know your outward favour. Well, honour is the subject of my story. I was born as free as Caesar. So were you. This man is now become a god, and Cassius is a wretched creature and must bend his body if Caesar carelessly but nod at him. Cassius is jealous of Caesar. He does not respect him. He hates him. He says, I was born as free as Caesar. They were equals. They were equals. But now, Caesar has almost become a god, and Cassius dislikes that immensely. we've got this plosive language, bend his body, to show him how he feels he must meet Caesar's needs, meet his every kind of command. I've run out of space, I'll go down here. And it almost seems like it hurts Cassius to do this with those plosives. It sounds painful to bend his body. We've also got the juxtaposition between this wretched creature and God. Caesar is above everyone, whereas Cassius is a wretched creature. He's below him. Shout and flourish. We've got a second shout and flourish off stage happening. Another general shout. I do believe that the applause offers some new honours that are heaped on Caesar. Why, man, he doth bestride the narrow world like a colossus. So he's saying he's taking over the world. A colossus is like a giant, so we've got that simile there to show he's very strong. And we petty men walk under his huge legs and peep out to find ourselves dishonourable graves. He feels belittled. He feels lesser than Caesar. To find ourselves dishonourable graves. Men at some times are masters of their fate. The fault, dear Brutus, is not in our stars, but in ourselves, that we are underlings. Cassius feels that it's time to take control. I'm really sorry this is so blurry. I'm trying my best. They should decide to take their own decision of their own fate. It's their choices that matter. The fault, de Brutus, is not in our stars, but in ourselves. He's saying, if you've heard this phrase like written in the stars, it's time to take control. Time to control their destinies. It's not Caesar, it's not fate, it's them. He no longer wishes to be this underling, this weak and kind of pitiful creature, this wretched creature he calls himself. Says, no, I don't want to be that anymore. Rome, thou hast lost the breed of noble bloods. Oh, you and I have heard our fathers say there was a Brutus once that would have tolerated the eternal devil to keep in state of Rome as easily as a king. And here he talks about a Brutus who once ruled in Rome, who defended the Republic. This is a past Brutus, who Brutus is named after. So double Brutus, I know it's very confusing, but this is an ancestor. In the past, Brutus's ancestor defended Rome, built the Republic, and now Cassius is saying, look, you should do the same as your ancestor did. What you have said, I will consider. I am glad that my weak words have struck but this much show of fire from Brutus. The games are done and Caesar is returning. Exeunt Brutus and Cassius, enter Caesar and Antony. So Brutus and Cassius go off stage, Caesar and Mark Antony come on. Caesar says, let me have men about me that are fat. Yon Cassius has a lean and hungry look. He thinks too much. Such men are dangerous. Now Caesar is not blind to the fact that Cassius doesn't like him. This lean and hungry look is this idea that he's hungry for power. And Caesar doesn't like that. He doesn't want men around him that could take his power. But Antony just reassures him and says, fear him not, Caesar. He's not dangerous. He is a noble Roman and well given. He thinks Cassius has enough power to keep him happy. But Cassius is never going to be happy. He's always going to be envious of Caesar. He's one of those people who just can't be happy with his lot of life. He will always want to be more. Would he were fatter. So he's trying to say, like, I wish he looked happier. I wish he looked more kind of like healthy and didn't look like he was greedy for my kind of share of the power. But I fear him not. Such men as he be never at heart's ease, whilst they behold are greater than themselves, and therefore are they very dangerous. I rather tell thee what is to be feared than what I fear. For always I am Caesar. Come on my right hand, for this ear is deaf, and tell me truly what thou thinkst of him. So here again, Caesar, for always I am Caesar. He does not change. But also there's a hint of arrogance about this. Again, that hubris. Always I am Caesar. And he's very uncompromising. He feels threatened by Cassius. He thinks Cassius is dangerous, but he's also like, but I'm Caesar and I'm all powerful. So, in this scene so far, we have covered the fact that Caesar is warned by a soothsayer to beware. The fact that he is respected by most people, and most people are more than happy to do his bidding. Caesar refuses to listen to the warnings, however, and Brutus and Cassius starts persuading and flattering Brutus to try and make him think that they need to do something about Caesar's power. They need to stop him being such a god or colossus. They need to make sure that they take control of their own fate. And he says, noble Brutus, you should control your own fate. You should be like your ancestor and defend the Roman Republic against those who wish to wreck it. But we also start to see that, again, Caesar is aware of the danger of Cassius. He's aware that he might be a dangerous character, but chooses to ignore it yet again because he's so arrogant that he thinks that always I am Caesar, that he'll always have this power. Whereas Cassius is actually manipulating and flattering Brutus into kind of trying to get rid of Caesar. So, hopefully this has helped you to make some annotations on Act 1, Scene 2. I will upload I'll scan in the annotations from my booklet and put them on Show My Homework for you as well, so you can access them after the time. I'm sorry if the visualizer's been a bit blurry, if it's been freezing at points. I know technology is not always with us, but hopefully this has helped you to understand the scene a bit more and to make some notes. What I'd like you to do now, just to finish off this section, is to summarize what happened in this scene. What happened in this scene? You can do this on your line paper that you did your quiz on. I'd just like you to summarize in about 5 sentences what happened in Act 1, Scene 2. Who is in the scene? What do we learn about the characters? What's Cassius trying to do? How does Cassius feel about Caesar? And how does Caesar feel about Cassius? Summarize those ideas to finish.